Hello, I'm Christopher Herring. Welcome to What in the World? What in the World is brought to you by Global Chamber San Antonio. I'm the Executive Director, Christopher Herring. Today I have a very special guest with us. My guest actually provided me with this very nice mask from S3I. And S3I did a great job because this mask really does look good. And it also does a great job with protecting me and others while we're all fighting this thing called the COVID pandemic. So, Ann Huynh, welcome to What in the World?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Chris.
So, this is a great day for me because Ann has been truly a blessing to San Antonio ever since we had the chance to meet. We've been working hand in hand together on a number of projects. And so today in this interview, Ann is from Vietnam.
Yes.
What part of Vietnam are you from?
I was born in the central part of Vietnam. And then I moved to Hanoi, the north, to study, to work for a while, work for the U.S. Embassy there and some other companies. Then I moved to the south, Saigon is the old name, and now we call Ho Chi Minh City for a couple of years before migrating to the U.S.
Okay, and you know, Ann came with a great reputation. In fact, when I was working with the City of San Antonio, the Small Business Advocacy, we did receive a letter that came actually from the ambassador or the Deputy General Consul of Vietnam to the U.S., Dr. Bin.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And that was really welcomed because oftentimes when people come to the city or cities in general, you try to figure out who is this person, but you came with a sterling letter of recommendation that was provided to us, and subsequent to that, you and I met because at the time you had your own business that you were managing, Global Brand,
Yes.
in which you partnered with the Global Chamber San Antonio, and we did something really special. We brought to the city a business delegation from Ho Chi Minh.
Yes.
What was that delegation's name?
The delegation's name, they came from the Saigon Entrepreneur Association
Yes.
in Ho Chi Minh City.
And you know, it's funny. We did this great event at the Comfort Suite Riverwalk, and that was the location. And we actually had some other events that were happening during that same time. But I was able to give a presentation about what Global Chamber was doing and how we could be partners. Little did I know back then. Little did I know that I would meet a Miss Tuyet.
Oh.
And Miss Tuyet became very important because there was a local San Antonio medical supplies company, MedWheels, that is CEO'd by Jane Gonzalez. And we were talking about PPE. And PPE, of course, for some of you who may be tracking PPE, it was a big discussion with China and the US, and the fact is that we needed more PPE, and Vietnam all of a sudden became a resource. And so when I was thinking about that, I know that we had an issue with getting our PPE, and so I made a call on WhatsApp. And that call was to Ms. Tuyet, who then said she knew the person who we needed to talk to that had the PPE we needed. And so Jane Gonzalez and Ms. Tuyet were talking about what she could do to help them to resolve some of the issues which we might have experienced. And it worked out so nice, and the PPE arrived, and the Vietnamese story with San Antonio, I think at that point for me was really anchored because of you and the relationships you established for us.
Thank you so much. I'm very glad to see how the relationship was built from last year, last September, when you host the delegation from Vietnam, and then it continued to grow until some weeks ago when your shipment was facilitated by a Vietnamese entrepreneur in that delegation. Yes, so just for some information, Vietnam just opened, allowed to export the surgical masks and some other we call personal protective equipment. That's why we are so glad to see the buyers in the U.S. to show the interest in Vietnam manufacturers.
You know, again, the relationship that we forged at the very beginning when you came actually has panned out in just more than just that one entrepreneur. In fact, Global Chamber members met so many people from that one visit, and we've been able to establish and keep relationships going. We haven't updated you,
absolutely,
but we've kept
because
relationships going.
I myself benefit from the Global Chamber network because I was introduced by other members in the Global Chamber in other countries, in Malaysia and in Arizona.
Wow.
To connect me with because we all share about the interest in the business of PPE. Just for an introduction, S3I
Yes.
company, our own company was incorporated in Hawaii, but we do register with Texas to do the business in Texas, and we focus on real estate investment and healthcare industry. So given the pandemic, although I just gave birth 2 months ago,
Right.
I was so busy.
And congratulations.
Thank you. I was so busy in working with the suppliers from other countries. Of course, at that time, Vietnam did not allow export. South Korea did not allow either, and the supply is very limited. So we had only the chance to work with the Chinese suppliers. But anyway, that's the story about our company and why you get these cloth masks. So the cloth mask is another thing. The cloth mask is not my main focus business,
Sure.
honestly, because it's for public use.
Yes.
Our target clients are the healthcare facilities in the US. But the cloth masks are made in Vietnam, and I also want to bring something in Vietnam and for public use. We want to bring them to donate to the people in San Antonio and some other cities. So here you are.
Well, and Global Chamber really appreciates the donation that you provided, and these masks have been distributed throughout the community. I know that we have some pockets of San Antonio that just simply can't afford to get PPE, and so your donation, not only to Global Chamber but to a wide variety of organizations, is very much appreciated. I do want to talk more about Vietnam as well, just to say that Vietnam, according to a global bank, has really transformed from one of the poorest nations on this planet to being a very lower to middle income country that has a very vibrant economy.
Yes.
The GDP had increased like 7% over last year. And even with the reports of the COVID and how it's impacting various economies, it's reported that Vietnam will have a fairly quick recovery, even to the tune of 2021. While America and our economy, it's been reported that our jobs really won't return for another 12 years. So what can you say about Vietnam and this new export market that is really available to Vietnam, and what kind of things could we look for from America, from San Antonio, from Texas, that we could take advantage of this new relationship?
Yeah, thank you for asking about Vietnam, because I do want to share an update about Vietnam so that the American investors are aware of how potential and how advantageous Vietnam comparing to other Asian countries. So as you know that Vietnam, the pop is I'm not sure if you are aware that it is the 15th populous country in the world.
Oh.
With 97 million people, and the number of young people under 30 are accounted for big percentage. So it means that the country has a great labor force which is capable of learning and with the youth energies. I do have to write out some information.
So do they bring the same youth and energy that you've brought to San Antonio? Because I mean, truly, your work has been great.
Thank you so much, although I'm not very young, but I do appreciate that. Yeah, so as you mentioned, the GDP last year, 7% is pretty high, especially comparing to the established economy like in the US or European countries. In terms of the globalization that I really appreciate the government there, they are very proactive in joining the global platform, for example, the World Trade Organization since 2007, and they do sign a lot of bilateral free trade agreement with other countries. Unfortunately, US and Vietnam have not entered the comprehensive free trade agreement yet, but we are looking forward to more negotiation. And in terms of the bilateral trade between US and Vietnam, Vietnam is the 13th largest export destination of the US, and US is the second largest trade partner of Vietnam.
Is that right?
Yes, and of course...
So strategically, you are here for a reason in San Antonio. I mean, it seems like we have two economies that are running parallel to each other. And when you talk about, we have a very young workforce in San Antonio, very young workforce in Vietnam. Tourism is very is hot right now.
Yes, you are absolutely right. I do find a lot of similarity between San Antonio and Vietnam. San Antonio is also an emerging city, so Vietnam economy is also growing. And interestingly, because San Antonio tried to attract the foreign investor from Japan, South Korea, and some other Asian countries. And Vietnam, the two target foreign investor are Japan and South Korea. And also, of course, San Antonio has a new energy in terms of technology and some other incentives, policies for the foreign investors. So that is one of the conditions which attract me. Some years ago, when I first came to San Antonio, I was having a Vietnamese corporation in steel production to invest in a factory either in US or Mexico. And because Texas is near Mexico. And when we look at Texas, I happen to have a friend in San Antonio Economic Development Foundation. So I contact her to ask about the environment, and I start to study a lot about San Antonio, and I see how advantageous San Antonio compared to other cities. So I decided to land my own company in San Antonio 2 years ago.
All righty, 3, 2, 1, here we go.